Just because somebody had it worse does not mean your trauma wasn't real. When I was 16, I talk about this pretty often because I've done, a lot of work on this. When I was 16, I got into a relationship where I could sense that something was off, but I was 16 and I was insecure and I wanted love. And I got into a relationship with someone that ended up mentally, emotionally, and sexually abusing me. And there was never physical abuse, but there was the threat of physical abuse. There was the threat of harm. There was the threat that, if you don't start doing what I say, this is going to happen. He was a lot bigger than me, too. So it was that fear of like, oh my God, something bad's going to happen to me. And for a long time, I really struggled to talk about it. I really struggled to talk about what happened and what I experienced because my experience wasn't like other stories that I had heard. It wasn't as graphic as a lot of other people's experiences are. It wasn't as long. And you think 4 years, holy shit, that's a long time. Yeah, but when you're in that experience, you just start doubting yourself. Or when you're thinking about it, you'll start to doubt yourself of like, well, it wasn't that bad. And other people had it worse and whatever, all of that BS that we're going to talk about. But it was a really bad situation for me at the time. And I remember really struggling talking to people about it because number one, I was in so much shame. I was so dumb. Like I knew it was bad. I knew it was bad, but it wasn't so bad that other people would have noticed. So I had a lot of shame around that. And I also compared to a lot of other people and a lot of other situations. And it was like, well, I didn't have it as bad as these other people. So I shouldn't talk about it. Nobody cares. Who gives a shit? Oh, you were in a bad relationship. Boo hoo. This person was beaten severely, or this person was held down and forced. Your situation wasn't like that. So, it really wasn't that bad. As if that matters, right? As if that has anything to do with trauma and the way that trauma works. This narrative is a fucking myth. It is an absolute myth. And this is one of the biggest myths that I see clients coming in with as a therapist. I've heard some of the most vile, dark stories that you could ever imagine. And I've heard other stories where if someone else had heard it, they would think that wasn't bad. Why are you complaining? And the issue is, a lot of us are told that by ignorant people who don't know how trauma works, who don't know how the brain works and how the relationship between the brain and the body work. And it's like, you didn't really have it that bad. Other people have it worse. Other people have been through this, or other people have been through that. And you know what the worst thing about it is, too? How many times is that our fucking family? How many times have you been told by someone in your life, especially someone close, like a family member, well, when I was your age, this is what happened to me. Or, oh, you think you have it bad? Here's my story. It's like we have this dick measuring contest of suffering. It's like, hey, who suffered the worst? Whose suffering was worse? You suffered? Nah, look at my suffering. It's like, who gives a fuck? You suffered. That's the point. You suffered. That's what matters. Why do we do that? Why is that what happens? Why is that the experience to where I'm 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever, and I'm so afraid of telling anybody what's going on, but I'm also afraid of no one believing that it's actually that bad? Why do so many of my clients come in having had horrific things happen to them, but having this narrative, well, other people had it worse, so I shouldn't complain? It's because of this suffering contest that we're all doing with each other. Think about the people who have tried to tell you that you probably didn't have it that bad or that someone else might have had it worse. There's a few things that they're trying to do in that. Number one, if it's like, well, look at what happened to me. Oh, you're suffering? Yeah, but look at me. That's usually somebody who feels really invalidated in their own life. And so they have to project it onto other people. They have to feel seen. They have to feel validated and vindicated for what's happening with them. So it's like, oh, this person might get attention that I'm not getting. This person might get affection or love or care that I'm not going to get. So, no, 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 no. You didn't have it bad. You didn't have it bad. I have it bad. Look at me. Look at me. Look at my pain. This is usually somebody that's been or that has felt like people didn't care about them. And so they can't let anybody else have the spotlight, even though what you're spotlighting is trauma. So in your mind, it's like, what are you actually winning by doing that? You're winning attention. And for somebody who feels starved of attention, even bad attention is still something to value. What else is going on? This person has had a narrative that you shouldn't complain about things, and they were probably told that, right? They were probably, whenever they tried to talk about their issues and their experiences, they were told that other people have it worse and so they shouldn't complain. And so what you end up learning is, oh, my pain doesn't matter. My pain isn't important. My pain isn't something that people care about. So I have to focus on other people more than myself? Okay, I guess. But then that becomes the narrative of your life. I don't matter. Oh, my pain doesn't matter. Regardless of how bad it is, my pain doesn't matter because someone else, because someone else, because someone else. Think about how messed up that is. Think about how think about how truly sad and heartbreaking that is, that we can't talk about what's going on with us because somewhere someone else in the world is going through something, and that means we don't matter. Think about how many times you've invalidated your own experiences because of that same idea. This is why so many of us struggle, like so deeply struggle, because we don't believe that we are deserving of having our thoughts, feelings, and experiences. But it's also why we end up hurting ourselves way more. I went through trauma. Oh, but I don't matter. So let me dismiss it and avoid it and numb it and not talk about it and not let anyone hear about it. But then I'm going to feel like shit about it. And then I'm going to feel even worse about myself. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to unintentionally project onto other people, or I'm going to make my life so miserable that my suffering is even worse. And then everyone around me is going to have a worse off life because of it, and I'm going to have a terrible life. It's like that makes no sense. Logically, it makes no sense. But that's the thing about issues like this. They don't make sense. There's no there is no logic behind it. It's because we've had these shame-bound messages freaking stuffed down our throats our entire lives by people who believed the same bullshit narrative over and over again. When I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to have a problem. I wasn't allowed to have a problem. And what did I do as a result? I freaking expressed and expressed and expressed. I was a child who didn't feel safe enough to talk about my experiences. And so I lashed out. As a young kid, I was physically aggressive. I was emotionally and verbally aggressive because I felt so suppressed. I felt like I didn't matter. And therefore, I needed someone to see my pain. And that caused me more pain. And then it's like, okay, I guess I'm not supposed to talk about it. So then when I'm being sexually assaulted or I'm being threatened and blackmailed in a relationship, I'm convinced that, well, I don't matter. Nobody cares. Someone else has it worse. Go figure it out. Go deal with it. It's so unfair and it's cruel. It's like not only do you have to deal with the pain of the traumatic experience itself, but then you have to deal with the pain of the shame you're putting on yourself for the experience and the negative opinions of other people who are shaming themselves for their experiences. So we're basically all just feeling terrible, but shaming each other for feeling terrible, and nobody's actually doing anything about it. It makes no sense. So, how do you get through this? How do you get to a point where it's okay to talk about what happened to you? Number 1, you start off with the premise that I am a person. I am someone who is alive. I am somebody who has to face this life and live this life. That inherently means that my experience matters because it's mine. My experience matters because it's mine. I have to go to sleep with myself every night. I have to wake up with myself every morning. I have to go to work. I have to have relationships. I have to have friendships. I have to get through the day. That means that what happens to me matters. What I feel and what I think, it matters. Now, it doesn't mean you're always right, right? That's not the point. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is you are here. And therefore, your experience matters to you because you have to live with yourself. So you start with that in mind. And then you have to understand, what are the narratives? What are the bullshit, the absolute utter bullshit narratives that the people around me have tried to make me believe so that I didn't make them uncomfortable with my pain? Like, think of how messed up that is. Hey, don't talk about your pain because your pain makes me uncomfortable and I don't know how to internally regulate and manage my experiences. So shut your mouth. It's like, are you kidding me? So I'm not allowed to be a person because you can't regulate yourself? Super logical. Makes perfect sense. It doesn't at all. So you have to work through and understand, What are the BS stories and the lies, because that's what they are lies, that I was convinced of, that led me to believe that my experience doesn't matter and that other people matter more than me. We are so afraid of being selfish, but it's that fear that makes us selfish because we put that shit on other people who don't deserve that and we put it on ourselves. If everybody actually lived life thinking, I'm a person that really matters, and not from a narcissistic ego standpoint, but from a genuine self love and self worth standpoint, I am a person that matters because I am alive and I am here on this earth. So, what I think and what I feel matters. Think about how much better we would treat ourselves, and therefore how much better we would treat other people, and how less trauma and suffering and pain there would be in this world. It would be so much less, but we're afraid of being selfish because anytime we ever expressed a need, we were told, hey, you're selfish. Think about me. You're selfish because you're thinking about you. Think about me. It's like, I don't think that makes sense. It doesn't make sense, but we're convinced of it. I am a person that matters. I was told lies to keep me small or to make other people more comfortable. And then number three, you start learning how to actually express what happened to you. Here's the thing, yeah, someone else might have had it worse, but you had it bad. If you lost your leg, I'm not going to cut off both of my arms just so it's fair. That doesn't fix anything. You lost a leg, therefore I need to lose both my arms because that makes something fair, that balances something out. No, it doesn't. It's not going to take away the fact that you don't have a leg. If someone else experienced worse trauma than me, it doesn't mean that mine doesn't count. It does because it happened to me. My trauma shaped my brain. My trauma and my experiences of it and the internalizations that I then had about how I saw myself and how I saw the world, and that I was terrified of men. Up until literally 6 months ago, I was terrified of men because of what happened to me. That doesn't matter. The fact that I was terrified, that I convinced myself of lies and stories because I had this horrible thing happen to me, that doesn't matter. It does matter. It matters a lot. Yeah, someone else might have had it worse, but my life also matters. And I had terrible things happen to me that I didn't feel safe enough telling anybody. And so I was in it longer than I should have been, and it ruined my life. That does matter. And I deserve to have a voice. I deserve to talk about it. I deserve to feel like someone cares about me the same way I would care about someone else if they came up to me and said, something really bad happened to me. Most of us who have experienced trauma, we don't say to someone else, hey, well, someone else had it worse. It's usually people who are older than us or people who are really just emotionally unaware and unintelligent who say things like that. But as a therapist, I've never had someone come to my therapy where I genuinely thought, well, someone else had it worse. And the clients who have had horrific trauma happen to them, I'll ask them this. I'm like, you're saying someone else had it worse than you. Would you ever say that to somebody else? And like, oh my God, no. And I'm like, so why do you say it to yourself, but you would never say that to somebody else? And they're like, because that's cruel. I'm like, oh, but not for you? And then they tell me to go F myself, and I know that it landed. But that's the point. We don't think that about other people, but somehow it makes sense for us. Interesting. Doesn't make sense for us. It doesn't make sense for anybody. You are a person that matters. Your suffering matters, even if other people who are unintelligent can't sit in that with you. And you deserve to have a voice about it. I know, as someone who experienced trauma, as somebody who has done thousands of therapy sessions with trauma survivors, every experience of trauma matters because it shapes our entire world. And it shapes the way that we interact with other people and the way they interact with us. And that's what causes the world to be the way that it is. Your trauma matters. It is not true that someone else having it worse takes away from yours. Isn't it bad enough that someone else had to go through it? Why? What makes it better dismissing your own? Nothing. Doesn't take it away. But what you can do is learn how to heal through it so that you don't unintentionally pass it to somebody else, or so that you don't have a worse off life because you're not giving yourself the chance to have a wonderful life because of these inaccurate narratives. Just because someone else had it worse doesn't take away from yours. And if you need help with this, if this is something you've struggled with, you feel safe enough to put a comment down below of how this has impacted you. How did you dismiss your own experiences? How have other people, tried to shame and ridicule you from your pain? And if this is something that you want help navigating through, I did it for me. I know this works because I did it for me. And I've helped thousands of other people to be able to do the same, and we could help you too. You don't have to suffer, and you don't have to suffer unnecessarily. The trauma you experienced was enough. Don't make it worse by convincing yourself it doesn't matter.